Hello, everybody. It is Monday, March 4th, 2024. Welcome to episode 80 of the Old Mage MTG podcast, which you can find on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for joining us today. We have an update to our Spotify feed. You can now watch the Old Mage MTG podcast on Spotify with video. So we're no longer audio there. This whole time we've been audio only on Spotify. As of today, I brought the video to Spotify. I tried to do this last week, Alex, and I stuffed it up. I read instructions on how to upload video files to your Spotify feed, and I was reading some, I guess, outdated information. It was on the Spotify website, but it was outdated information. It was saying if you have another podcast provider that supplies you with your RSS feed, you can't upload video to Spotify. You need to have a Spotify for Podcasters account, and you need to upload directly on the Spotify website. So I went to the Spotify website, and we already have a Spotify Podcasters account. So I logged in. I was like, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. And I uploaded a video, but I made an incorrect selection somewhere. I don't even know what I did. Long story short, I uploaded our most recent episode as a video file to Spotify, but I created a second Old Mage MTG podcast feed when I did it. So when you search for our podcast on Spotify, the Old Mage MTG podcast showed up twice. One of them had all 79 episodes, all in audio form. And then the new feed that I created had one episode, and it was the most recent episode in video form. So I was like, that's bad. Because now we have like two different accounts and two different feeds for people to subscribe to. It was really screwy. So I contacted Spotify customer support. They're actually really great. They deleted the feed that I didn't mean to create, and then they enabled a function for me. I told them, I explained to them, I made a mistake. I don't think you can do this if you have an RSS feed through another host. And then he checked with the podcast team, and they allowed it, and he enabled some function for me. So now I just can log in through a general account, and these three little dots appeared, and I hit those three little dots, and I could just add the video file to the audio file. I was like, I don't know. It was great. I don't know why I didn't have that functionality already.
Yeah, why
I'm confused at what they enabled, because when I was reading some Spotify documents, they said, look for those three dots, select upload video. And I didn't have it before. I was like, hold on a second. You're telling me to follow these instructions. I can't do what you're telling me to do. So what you have to do if you want to do that is first screw it up. Second, contact customer support. Third, then they fix your mistake, and then they enable that function for you. Long story short, we got video on Spotify now. Whatever platform you're listening to us on, you can support us by subscribing to us there, giving us a like or a 5-star rating. And if you're going to buy some cardboard from TCG Player already, please do so using our affiliate link. You can find our link in the description below, down where Alex and I are pointing. Before we get into the main topic for the day, I want to talk about a poll that we put up on our social media, Alex. I put a poll on Twitter, YouTube, and Threads. The poll is, what stuff would you like to hear more of on the Old Mage MTG podcast? The options are cool stuff, slick stuff, neat stuff, or raw stuff. Cool stuff crushed it on Twitter. I was hoping for raw stuff. I had a lot of raw stuff in the pipeline, but the people on Twitter wanted cool stuff. The people on Threads wanted neat stuff. This was wild.
See, I was just about to say I'm disappointed in how well neat stuff did in that first poll. So I'm glad to see neat stuff.
You're disappointed that it did poorly. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Neat stuff crushed it on Threads, but we only had 4 votes on Threads. So that's 2 votes for neat stuff, 1 for slick stuff, 1 for raw stuff. YouTube coming in hot with the cool stuff, 60%. So overall, across all 3 platforms, people want some cool stuff, and that's great news because we've got some cool stuff for you today. Some ice cold stuff. our main topic of the day is Coldsnap. You like how I brought that all together, Alex?
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah.
We're wrapping up our discussion of Coldsnap with a review of the rares. Not all of the rares. We ain't got time for that. Just the rares that caught our attention while we were going through this old frame set for the first time. Shit, old set for the first time. This is a new frame set. I'm so used to only talking about old frame cards on this podcast that I called Coldsnap an old frame set. I'm going to present to them to you in no particular order now. I'm going to start off with a cycle of cards.
Why were you looking up Scalebane's Elite, Steve?
Well, I was listening to an episode when I was waiting for you to join the Zoom call. I was listening to an episode of my favorite old school Magic the Gathering podcast called All Things Considered. And there's a guest on it right now, the most recent episode named Landy Ho, and he brought up Scalebane's Elite. And the host of the show was like, "Oh, hold on a second." And I was just listening to the audio, but he was showing off his original art of Scalebane's Elite. He's like, "I only have two pieces of original Magic the Gathering art, and one of them is Scalebane's Elite." And I couldn't remember exactly what the card was, so I pulled it up. Scalebane's Elite from Visions, 3 colorless, 1 white, 1 green, 4/4. Summon soldiers protected from black.
Okay, so anti-black sideboard card for your soldier deck, I guess.
Might be coming up in a recent episode or in an upcoming episode. This might be brought up in an upcoming episode of this podcast. Spoiler: we're doing some soldiers. Some point in the near future. Anyways, Coldsnap. I'm going to start with a cycle of cards. This is not any ordinary cycle. It's a cycle of pitch cards, which I'm always happy to see. More pitch cards. We're learning about more pitch cards in the game. You and I, we knew the Alliance's pitch cards. Then we found out that there was a cycle of pitch cards in Mercadian Masks. And now we're seeing a cycle of pitch cards in Coldsnap. But these aren't just any ordinary pitch cards. These are super pitch cards.
Super.
Why do I call them the super pitch cards? Because that's what they're called here on MTG Wiki, the super pitch cards.
Yeah.
Each of these rare spells may be played by removing 2 cards in your hand of its color from the game instead of paying its mana cost. They said
so
playing.
Super in this case is 2 cards instead of 1 card.
2 cards instead of 1. We're going to start with the white one. The white super pitch card is Sunscour. Not Sunsour. Sunscour. Sunscour, the normal casting cost is 5 colorless, 2 white. It's a sorcery. You may remove 2 white cards in your hand from the game rather than pay Sunscour's mana cost. Destroy all creatures.
Oh, okay.
Rating at a 4.114 on Gatherer, current market price of $1.37. So this is a Wrath of God you don't need to pay mana for, which is quite nice.
Is that a rhinoceros in the picture? Or am I just seeing a rhinoceros?
It probably is.
Okay.
A rhinoceros-like creature.
Yeah, okay. Close enough.
There were dinosaurs in Coldsnap. Was there a dinosaur that had a horn at the end of its nose?
Okay. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm wondering is because that's what I'm seeing, but I didn't know if I was like making up that shape here.
Is it a Triceratops?
Huh?
Does it have a little crown there? Might be a Triceratops. Triceratops or a rhino. But I like this idea of a Wrath of God with an alternative casting cost. You can blow up the board, and then you still have mana to play out creatures that same turn. If they're hasty, that's a great way to end the game quickly. So I think that's what you would want to do with something like this. Remove all the creatures from the board. I was
gonna say you could, they won't expect it if you don't have the mana open, but it's a sorcery, so you can't play it as a surprise. But yeah, I mean, I like it. And with white, I mean, I think it fits well in white because you might be running like a white weenie deck or something with a lot of, little creatures that you could pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's great too to like in a white weenie situation to use this later in the game. You have 1 casting cost, 2 casting cost creatures that you played out on curve early game. If you pull them late game, not necessarily the best, but if you can pitch them to a Wrath of God and then play 1 or 2 of your big creatures after you've blown up the board, then that's great. So this is pretty cool. Wrath of God with an alternative casting cost. Second super pitch card is Commandeer. This is the blue one. It is 5 colorless, 2 blue, instant. You may remove 2 blue cards in your hand from the game instead of paying the casting cost. Gain control of target non-creature spell. You may choose new targets for it. Has a rating of 4.145 or 4.415 on Gatherer. Current market price of $18.79. I saw this and I thought all the upside of deflection without the downside of needing to keep the 4 mana open, which
Yeah.
we've talked about deflection before. And we're like, that's what made it so hard to pull off. It's too much mana. How many times you want to sit there with 4 mana open just so you could play deflection if somebody plays something you can deflect.
Yeah.
Another limitation of deflection was you can only deflect spells that had 1 target. So this, you can control spells that have more than 1 target.
Yeah, or that don't target at all, or like
Or that don't target at all.
definitely opens up the what am I trying to say? The pool of cards that you can hit.
Yeah, you can even take like control of an artifact that gives just your creatures plus or whatever, or you can take control of some artifact, let's say, or an enchantment that allows you to draw a card every time somebody plays an enchantment or a creature or something, you now get that spell. Can't do that with deflection. So it's much more powerful.
Couldn't like steal an enchantment with it.
They even specify that here. If that spell is an artifact or enchantment, the permanent comes into play under your control.
Okay, I was going to ask about artifacts, but it says it's specifically on the cards. That saved me some time.
Yeah. I think this might be the most expensive card in Coldsnap.
Oh, okay.
Let me check real quick. But obviously strong.
I wish this card was in pre-modern. That'd be fun.
It would be fun. Yeah, it's the most expensive card. And currently the most expensive card in Coldsnap, Commandeer. Next pitch card is the black one. It is Soul Spike. Soul Spike also costs 5 colorless and 2 black. It's an instant. You may remove 2 black cards in your hand from the game as an alternative casting cost. Soul Spike deals 4 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 4 life.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
Really? Okay. 3.491 on Gatherer. Current market price of $3.79. It could be used as some surprise removal. It could be used to push through the last few points of damage to end the game. It could be used to save yourself from otherwise fatal damage. If somebody goes all out to bring you to 0, you Soul Spike just to get the 4 life. In addition to that, you do 4 damage. I was underwhelmed by it, but then somebody was like, oh, it's like a Fire Blast. And I was like, oh, it kind of is like a Fire Blast, really. It's a little bit worse. I mean, it's worse than a Fire Blast because I think I would rather remove 2 lands than pitch 2 spells.
Yeah.
But I do see this as a sort of a weaker version of Fire Blast in black. I just think it's a little bit too steep of a cost for its effect.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
It's a little, I think it's, the first 2 we looked at seem a little bit better. But this is okay. I don't hate it. It piqued my interest because I'm like, oh, this is, it's a very common effect in black, this life draining, but it's the only one I know of now that you can cast for free.
Yeah.
You don't
Not
have to
bad at
pay
all.
mana for it, and you don't have to, forego doing something else on your turn to cast it. So
I can't tell what's going on with the art.
it says Soul Spike, but it looks like Body Spike to me.
Has he just collapsed, or is there something protruding through? Is there a giant spear protruding through his body?
Well, it looks like the thing is stabbing him in the back, that spiky spear thing.
Ah, here. Okay, there it is. Okay.
And he's like coughing up blue goo now.
Blue goo. I think he's a Balduvian. I think Balduvians have blue paint on their face.
Oh.
I didn't know they had blue goo in their mouth too. Maybe that's just saliva mixed with the face paint that's coming out blue. That's Soul Spike. This is the part of the podcast where I plug in my computer. Hold on a second. can't find the Climax, Alex. Where's the Climax?
You say Clemix?
Climax. I'm looking for the Climax. I can't find it. I can't find the thingamajig. I got the thingamajig now. Okay. Thingamajig has been recovered.
What's it?
I'm plugged in. I'm ready to go. Okay. Next pitch card. Not pitch card. Super pitch card.
Super.
Is the red one. It is Fury of the Horde.
Does it do damage to stuff?
No.
Oh,
Not directly.
look at me getting all cocky.
Not directly. It's 5 colorless, 2 red. Sorcery. Remove 2 red cards in your hand from the game as the alternative casting cost. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So this is a Relentless Assault, if you remember Relentless Assault from Visions, that you don't need to pay mana for.
Yeah,
So I'm into it.
that's pretty
I'm
good.
into it. It's a game ender, faster game ender. You think you got 2 turns to live? You don't. I'm pitching 2 cards. I'm playing Fury of the Horde. Did I say it had a rating of 3.58 on Gather and a market price of $4.59? No, $4.49. It's come down in price since I wrote these show notes. I was trying to think of what creatures do you pair this with. I always think about Ball Lightning because I love Ball Lightning. Get 2 attack phases out of your Ball Lightning.
Yeah, but is the Ball Lightning going to survive the first attack phase?
Well, I wasn't sure. Somebody else on Gather also had Ball Lightning in their mind as a good idea, but they could also just be wrong like me. I do think that it survives. Phase. This, because Ball Lightning probably says something about end of turn. So I think
Well,
this
I'm
is
just
where...
talking about because it has 1 toughness.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
They're going to block with something that's going to die.
Yeah, potentially.
But if you have
Buried
maybe
at the end of turn.
regeneration effects or something in your deck.
Or if there's just nothing to block it. But yes.
Yeah.
Which, how often will that be the case? Not often. So you're right. Ball Lightning's terrible.
No, I mean, not terrible still, but just.
But there are other better cards that have come out that I wasn't familiar with that you could pair with this. The best possible type of creature you could pair with a pitch card is some creature that might replace the cards that you needed to pitch in order to play this for free. And I didn't know what those creatures might be, but it sounds like this gets paired in Modern with Grizzlebrand. And Grizzlebrand is something that I see being brought up often because it's just such an insane beater. A lot of times when I see combat spells, you're like, what do I pair this with? And you look in comments and everybody just says Grizzlebrand. I don't know if you're familiar with Grizzlebrand, Alex, but it's...
Yeah, I've seen this before.
Yeah, 4 colorless, 4 black, legendary creature, demon, 7/7 flying, lifelink, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. So you do the 7 damage, you get 7 life because it has lifelink, then you pay the 7 life to draw 7 cards. You replace cards you had to pitch to Fury of the Horde, plus you get 5 additional.
Yeah.
So that's Fury of the Horde.
Also, anything with effects where if a creature attacks and isn't blocked, it does something special. Like makes them discard cards or anything like that. You get to use those creatures twice that turn to do that. Or some of them do things like help you draw cards when they deal damage. So that would be a way to help get those cards back if you were using something like, what is it, Curiosity?
Yeah.
1 blue enchantment. Something like that.
From Visions, from Exodus. Damages a card, damages an opponent, draw a card.
Yeah, or anything with effects like that, creatures that are doing more than just simple damage by attacking. So then you get to use them twice. I don't know, there's a lot of potential for just like doubling up on your attack and main phases. Like you can do a lot more stuff.
The final pitch card. Super pitch card, excuse me. These aren't just regular pitch cards. These are super pitch cards. Allosaurus Rider. 5 colorless, 2 green. Creature Elf Warrior. You can remove 2 green cards in your hand as the alternative casting cost. Allosaurus Rider's power and toughness are each equal to 1 plus the number of lands you control. It has a base power toughness of 1 plus star. 1 plus star. I had heard of this card before. I had heard the name.
Yeah.
It got a lot of hype, and it mentioned in the MTG Wiki that this was one of the pre-release cards. At first glance, I did not understand the hype behind this card. Because, yeah, you can play it early. You can get a creature out on the board early by pitching 2 cards, but if you play it early, you're not going to have many lands in the early game.
Yeah.
Right? So in that case, it's decent, but it's not incredible. But I found out that some people really loved it because they did some broken things with it. It was used probably for a lot of things. But one of the things I recently found out about was it was used in a combo deck called Neo Brand. Not sure where the brand comes from. Oh, I remember where the brand comes from. It comes from Grizzle Brand, which we just talked about.
Oh.
So the idea is you play Allosaurus Rider early. So you pitch 2 green cards, get Allosaurus Rider out. And then you play a card called Neoform, something I was not familiar with at all. It's a sorcery. It's 1 green, 1 blue, printed in War of the Spark. And when you play Neoform, you have to pay an additional cost to cast the spell, which is to sacrifice a creature. And then you search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Then you put that card into the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, then shuffle your library. So the good thing about using Neoform with Allosaurus Rider is, like all of these super pitch cards, yeah, it has a high casting cost. It has a high casting cost of 7. So you pitch 2 green cards, pop out the Allosaurus Rider, next turn cast Neoform, and then you have a second turn Grizzle Brand in your Neo Brand combo deck.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Couple different notes on this card. I say different strokes for different folks, but I don't personally want my elves to ride dinosaurs. It's just not my thing. I'm into dinosaurs. I'm into elven warriors, but I don't know how I feel about elven warriors atop dinosaurs.
Yeah. It's giving me that like unrealistic Chris Pratt making friends with velociraptors vibe.
I didn't watch the new Jurassic Park. Is that what happens? He makes friends.
Which one's the new one? I think there's even there's several now, right?
Okay, I haven't seen any that weren't made in the 90s, I suppose.
Okay. I saw the first Chris Pratt one. I think there's a second Chris Pratt one. I'm not even sure if that's true or not. But yeah, I saw the one with the first Chris Pratt one. He has like a stable of velociraptors that he is like training and working with, and they're like bonded to him, and then he like,
You know what? I'm just remembering I did
help
see a
him
new
fight.
one. I watched it last time I was on the airplane heading to
Oh.
Australia. I don't know,
In a
like
fever
13
dream.
Yeah, in a 13 or 14-hour flight, not sleeping for 2 days, and also full of Dramamine, but still not being able to fall asleep. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
now all I remember is that I watched it.
That's all right. Fine.
Other thing is, I know you love unsummons. This would be a hell of a target for one of those unsummons you like to play. You know, a pitch card creature.
Oh, you mean like if your opponent plays Allosaurus Rider, then you unsummon it?
Yeah, that would
Oh,
suck.
yeah.
That would suck for them.
Yeah. Well, that's why. So I was thinking about like when you were talking about the combos with this and stuff. Like you get the Allosaurus Rider out early to start that off, but then what happens if it gets removed? And it, like janks up your combo. I mean, I guess it's just the next turn, and you're only maybe hoping it sticks around for a turn, but it seems a little more vulnerable. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you could do something like, I don't know, like a Pattern of Rebirth or Natural Order type thing.
Yeah, I don't know how competitive these Neo brand decks were back in the day. I guess we'll find out once we get to once we cover War of the Spark, whatever year that was printed. Who knows how long it'll take us to get there. But once we get to War of the Spark, we'll see if these Neoform decks made a splash on the tournament scene or not. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
They could just be fun kitchen table combos.
It's also unsatisfying to me that this card is not a dinosaur at all in creature type.
That is
You know,
true.
'cause I know it's the rider. They're saying Allosaurus rider, but I mean, he rides an Allosaurus, and that's kind of the biggest part of it.
It's an important part, yes.
So if I wanted to do something that affected dinosaurs, I wouldn't be able to do it to the Allosaurus rider.
Let me check Gatherer just to make sure it hasn't been errated to Elf Warrior
yeah.
Dinosaur. Not Creature Elf Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I have like destroy target dinosaur card, I'm gonna be mad that I can't use it on this.
Yeah, that's not right.
That's not right.
I mean, because that elf ain't shit if he's not on his
Right.
Allosaurus.
Take
It's
that
a
Allosaurus
different
out from
ballgame.
underneath him. What's he doing?
Not much. Anyways,
What's it
that's
rated?
kind of high. 4 point something.
Oh wow.
4.053.
It's higher than the red one, right?
People liked it. The red one, Fury of the Horde, was 3.588. Yeah,
Okay.
significantly higher.
The black is the lowest rated. I think the black is probably the worst.
Blue's
Yeah,
probably the best.
the blue's really good. Yeah, the black's not terrible, but I got excited a little bit when I saw it because you get to do that for, no mana. But yeah, it's not as good as the other ones probably. What do you think about the black one? I feel like maybe they should have just made it a bigger number, like 5 damage and 5 life, or 6
That would have
damage.
been, it would have made it better. Yeah, like it's just an underwhelming amount of damage for the cost. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I think when I read it. I'm like, this cost is just too great for what it does.
Or maybe if you were allowed to split it any way you wanted between targets or something like that,
Yeah, that would be much cooler. Give it a contagion type of vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
That would actually maybe then be worth. That might be worth it. Anyways, those are the super pitch cards. Now we're off the cycles. At least for now. We might have another cycle later in the show. I can't remember. The next rare I wanted to talk about is Braid of Fire. I believe this is the second most expensive card in Coldsnap. Braid of Fire is an enchantment. It's 1 colorless, 1 red. It has a cumulative upkeep. Add red to your mana pool.
That's it.
At the beginning of your upkeep, put an age counter on this permanent, then sacrifice it unless you pay its upkeep cost for each age counter. So this is just when they started with, and I think they started this in Coldsnap for cumulative upkeep. Maybe they did this between Ice Age and Coldsnap too, but they would describe cumulative upkeep in this way as adding counters.
Yeah, yeah.
Which we just did that in our head prior to them writing.
Yeah, that wasn't how the language was in Ice Age when they explained it in the rule book and stuff. But yeah, they just changed that to make it, fit with other cards and other rules.
Might give you new ways to exploit it too, because there are cards that add or remove counters and stuff too that can play with the cumulative upkeep. But yeah, that's the card. Add red to your mana pool.
That's wild.
Rating of 4.514 on Gather, a market price of $12.87. When I saw this, I was like, this is crazy, man. I mean, imagine this in a world where mana burn doesn't exist. They eliminated mana burn. And then you have Braid of Fire. There's essentially no downside to having this card out, right?
Right. Yeah, as far as I can, that's what I was trying to think. I was like, well, without mana, other than mana burn, there's no, there's nothing bad about this, right?
Nothing bad about
good to me.
The only thing is there's, of course, limitations with what you can do. Limitations to what you can do with this card because your mana pool empties between your upkeep and your draw phase.
Yeah, this is gonna be like that one artifact that gives you colorless mana during your upkeep.
Thran something, Thran Turbine, or something.
Turbine.
But limitations, there are still plenty of instance activated abilities, upkeep costs. You can feed this growing pool of mana to, as pointed out by different people on Gatherer. They were just listing all sorts of cards, including a bunch of cards from the Visions Weatherlight area that I just never played because of the upkeep cost, but that are good if you can just feed Braid of Fire into it, like Wave of Terror. This Weatherlight card that removes creatures from the game. Not wave of creature. Wave of terror.
I remember that.
Cumulative upkeep of 1 colorless. At the end of your upkeep, bury each creature with casting costs equal to Wave of Terror's last paid cumulative upkeep. Kind of cool. Corrosion. They mentioned corrosion. I've never played corrosion because it has a cumulative upkeep, but not bad. Cumulative upkeep of 1 colorless. It's 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red. During your upkeep, put a rust counter on each artifact target opponent controls. If the number of rust counters on an artifact equals or exceeds that artifact's casting cost, bury the artifact. If corrosion leaves play, remove all rust counters from the game. So this is like awesome sideboard tech if you're playing a heavy artifact heavy opponent. You have Braid of Fire out, playing red.
Yeah, I didn't think of that immediately, but like to pair it with other cumulative upkeep cards, it's going to keep pace with them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
They mentioned Mystic Remora, which everybody plays in Commander, it seems like. I've never played. They mentioned cards like Elephant Grass and Energy Storm. They mentioned Malignant Growth. I remember the art for this, but I can't remember exactly what it does. I think it's another Visions era gold card. Mirage. 3 colorless, 1 green, 1 blue. Enchantment. Cumulative upkeep of 1 colorless. During your upkeep, put a growth counter on Malignant Growth. During target's opponent draw phase, he or she draws an additional card for each growth counter on Malignant Growth. For each card that opponent draws in this way, Malignant Growth deals 1 damage to him or her. So this is like nasty in a
That would get nasty.
stasis deck or something, right?
Yeah, Black Vice.
Yeah, Black Vice.
Or just like trying to mill them. Like, it's like a Megrim type effect for milling, which is cool. So,
Of course, in this case, you have to
drawing, but you know what I mean, like making their deck smaller.
Yeah. In this case, you have to have 3 colors because Braid of Fire is red. This is green, blue.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun opportunities.
But that's okay. I mean, that looks pretty fun. I might try to play around with that.
Yeah, so Braid of Fire. Good. Second most expensive card in Coldsnap, but still only like $12.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Can you use I'm like having a brain fart now, but like during your upkeep phase, there's no reason why you couldn't use that mana for like fire breathing, pumping one of your creatures, right?
Don't see why not.
Yeah, so if you have something with like fire breathing, you could like pump it all up with that mana during your upkeep phase and then just attack with it later.
As somebody who barely knows the rules, I would say yes. If you were sitting across the table from me and you tried to do that, I wouldn't even have a second thought about it. I would be like, sure thing. Next card. Next card's a land. It's not just a land, it's a snow land. It's not just a snow land, it's a legendary snow land. Don't know how many of those there are in the game, but this is one of them. Possibly the only one, not sure. It's Dark Depths. Dark Depths comes into play with 10 ice counters on it. You can remove an ice counter from Dark Depths by paying 3 colorless mana. So to get rid of all of the ice counters, you have to pay 30 mana total. When Dark Depths has no ice counters on it, you sacrifice it. If you do, put an indestructible legendary 2020 black avatar creature token with flying named Merit Lage into play. So I had heard references to Merit Lage when I first started playing again. I didn't know what it was until I came across this card. There's heaps of flavor in this card. I love it. It's like, it's a giant beast. It's frozen in time and space. Given enough time, in this case, however long it takes you to feed 30 mana into it to break the ice, the beast breaks free from its icy prison. It emerges from the dark depths and lays waste to anything standing in its way.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate Timmy card, Alex. Pretty sick.
Yeah, no, great flavor, fun, cool. Yeah.
Rating a 4 point,
like ways to
exploit
mess
it.
around with it.
Yeah. Rating a 4.555 on Gatherer. Current market price is $6.98, if I didn't say that already. From doing a little bit of
those with Braids of Fire pretty well too.
Yeah, not terrible.
You
Not
just start
terrible at
taking
all.
counters off with all that mana you're getting.
I did a little bit of reading about this card, and it sounds like when it first came out, it was just like fun and goofy, but it didn't see much play until, at least outside of the kitchen table environment, until other cards came along. And then it became like a major tournament player.
Okay.
In particular, when this card was printed, Vampire Hexmage. Vampire Hexmage was Vampire Shaman printed in Zendikar. It's 2 black,
Oh,
2/1, first strike, sacrifice Vampire Hexmage, remove all counters from target permanent. So
that's broken as hell.
yeah, it's not even like a clever combo. It's not hard enough at all to pull off for what happens.
Yeah.
You just have to play Dark Depths and then you play Vampire
It's
Hexmage.
really obvious. Yeah.
It's too obvious. And then next minute you have a 2020 legendary black avatar creature token with flying that
Yeah.
is also indestructible.
And
So
you can
that's
do
just,
that as soon as the vampire comes into play. It doesn't have to tap to do it. So
no, you just have to sacrifice it.
just like boom, cast it and boom, it's done.
I don't know if these things have been, I don't know if anything was banned in response to this or not in that
I mean, you
particular
can,
meta, but it seems like when you have these 2 cards available at the same time, then you couldn't really play much else. You just have to have force of will to force their Vampire Hexmage, or else everybody's going to have a 2020 flying indestructible creature out on turn 1 or 2.
yeah. Yeah, you
Let me
can
go
just
to
do turn 1, man. Wow.
Yeah, let me go to not gather. Let me go to Scryfall real quick and see if Vampire Hexmage or Dark Depths are banned.
Hexomge.
Not Hexoms, Hexmage. Vampire Hexmage. Okay, legal and modern. Legal and modern, legacy, vintage, commander, oathbreaker. What
Okay.
about Dark Depths? You could maybe do this in a commander deck, and I won't say what the hell's wrong with you because you can only have one of each, but then you still have a bunch of tutors and
Right.
stuff. But
Yeah.
still, you only have one of each. Okay, Dark Depths is banned in modern, so that makes sense.
Okay.
I think what happened is Vampire Hexmage was printed, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna kill you on turn 2 with 2020 indestructible," and then they were like, "We can't have that happening because then
We
there's no
can't have that
magic.
happening.
There's no magic to play. That's just.
No.
Do you like to play Magic? Then don't do that."
It's a shame that they banned this one instead of the vampire because this is so much more unique and
Yeah,
flavorful.
goofy,
Although
fun.
the vampire is pretty cool for use with lots of other cards too. Like there are a lot of other situations where I would want to be able to remove all the counters from something,
That are situations where that's beneficial to be able to do, but not broken to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like your opponent's forgotten ancient or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish, and I understand why they don't do this, because it would just be way too complicated and ridiculous. But sometimes I wish they would ban like combinations of cards in decks.
Yeah.
So like modern, they'd be like, you can play Dark Depths or Vampire Hexmage, but you can't play both in the same deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That would get ridiculous.
It would, but it would
yeah.
be functionally, it would,
You can do that at your kitchen table, though. You could do that with your play
right.
group.
Well, also like along the same lines, I miss having like a restricted list because when we were playing, like that was a pretty core element of the game was having like, a list of cards that you could only play one of in your deck.
Yeah, I liked it. I like that.
And that gets around, that way you don't have to ban, sometimes you can avoid banning cards because they're too powerful. You just, make it harder to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Although now there's so many tutor effects and things like that that like it still gets kind of.
I think that's a big part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
In formats outside of old school, you just put in tutors for everything.
Yeah, Oath of Druids,
Anyways, next card, After Dark Depths, which is a beauty. Another snow land. This one is not legendary. It is Scrying Sheets.
Scrying Sheep?
Scrying Sheets. Sheep would be awesome.
Can't tell what's happening.
They could make that flavorful too in some way. Like the sheep, it could, what could it do? Could provide like protections from certain things. You can imagine they could like shearing the sheep to make like a coat in the
There could be a
winter.
person like looking into the sheep's wool to like, see the future, like
You
reading the
could
chicken
do that with
bones.
sheep. I've never seen anybody, I wasn't aware you could do that with sheep, but that's possible, I guess.
Well,
Suppose
if
if
they're
you're a
scrying
shaman,
sheep, you probably could.
oh, that's true. Yeah, what am I saying? These aren't just any sheep, it would be scrying sheep. But we're talking about sheets here, not sheep. I don't know what kind of sheets exactly because I can't really tell what's going on in this art.
No.
But you can tap it to add one colorless to your mana pool. In this case, it would be a snow mana too because it's a snow permanent. Or you can pay one colorless and one snow to tap, look at the top card of your library. If that card is snow, you may reveal it and put it into your hand.
Okay.
Rating of 4.009 on Gatherer, market price of $6.64. In a snowless deck, this is garbage, but if you're one of those people who likes to build a modern snow deck, we've already seen plenty of cards that are pretty cool in a snow deck, then
I
this is
heard
quite
they're
awesome.
I heard they're bringing snow back again in one of the upcoming sets.
Oh, that's cool. That doesn't
I,
shock me. I think they do that every once in a great
yeah,
while.
I can't remember which one I read, but I think it was Modern Horizons 3. But we'll see.
Oh, so those Modern Horizons, we've talked about this before, but they are all reprints, right?
Man, I know we've talked about this and solved it. But I want to say either yes or almost all yes. They're
Okay. That's what I think the answer is, almost all yes. I think a
okay.
lot of them, I think it's some reprints that they want to bring into the modern carpool, so they reprint it with a modern frame. But I think there might be some new stuff, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
That's a much
Here,
better picture.
yeah, the art on Scryfall is also always much higher resolution, so we can see it's a scrying. I don't know where the sheet comes in
I
yet, but we
think
see
now
the
it's
wizard scry.
sheets of ice.
Sheets
Like
of ice, of course. Scrying sheets of ice.
but it's only one sheet, right? It looks like, how do you have multiple sheets of ice there?
Well, he's in one ice cave. Maybe there's another one in an
Oh, okay.
adjacent ice
There's
cave.
multiple ice caves that
Yeah, you
each have
see,
a scrying sheet in them.
that's what I'm thinking. You see
Okay.
different pathways here, in and
Oh,
out. There's
yeah.
a whole tunnel system
Yeah. Okay. Where you go to look at other
to
cities.
scry.
Yeah. See what's going on.
So I like this. It's rather cheap card draw if you happen to look, and it's not a snow permanent. You're not forced to discard the card also, so it's
Right.
not like
Nothing
you just have to put everything snow in your deck.
nothing bad happens, and you don't even have to reveal it to everyone. You just look at it
No.
yourself. So that's good.
Then you can make faces too. That's a good way to like screw with your opponents too, to have spells that allow you to look at the cards, and you can just either like you can react, but in the opposite way that you
Yeah.
really want to react.
Yeah.
Like in your mind, you're smiling, but you look at it and you're like, oh,
Yeah. A fake tell.
yeah. Next card I want to talk about. Well, I next want to move on to another group of cards. So
Oh,
this is not a cycle, but this is a set of legendary creatures. Coldsnap had quite a few legendary rare creatures. So here are your choices if you wanted to run a Coldsnap commander. If you're in green, I think you're shit out of luck because I didn't see a green legendary creature or green. I don't know what the deal is with that. It's like maybe it's flavor reasons. Maybe they're like all the forests are frozen over.
yeah, everything's frozen.
So there's no, but they could have done something. They could have made like a frozen tree folk or something.
Well, there's a freaking Allosaurus running around still.
There's an Allosaur. That's true. They could have just put an elf on top of another dinosaur.
What's with these ice dinosaurs? Like they're the least likely creatures to be surviving during an ice age. There's got to be some
Yeah,
lore
I don't know.
we don't know why there are like ice impervious dinosaurs running around.
I don't know. I don't know the answer for that. But the first one I want to talk about is blue. It's Arkham Dagson.
I wanted to see this one.
Arkham Dagson. I think that's how you pronounce that. 3 colorless, 1 blue, 2/2 legendary creature, human artificer. You can tap Arkham Target artifact creature's controller sacrifices it. That can be you, that could be somebody else. That player may search his or her library for a non-creature artifact card, put it into play, then shuffle his or her library. It has a rating of 4.012 on Gatherer, market price of $8.48. I thought cool ability, a limited tinker on a stick. I also thought, Alex, I found a commander for your Ornithopter EDH deck. Spitting out Thopters left and right.
There's not enough Thopters, right?
Well, but there's that there's a card that generates Thopter tokens or shit, shit like that. Also, it doesn't have to be a Thopter. It could be a well, you don't have to have it in a Thopter deck. You can just generate 1/1 artifact tokens. It's more fun if it's a Thopter token. But wasn't there a Thopter Foundry or something?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Thopter Squadron, which I think might split up into smaller Thopters.
Yeah, there's a few.
There is a Thopter.
Still, though, for an EDH deck, I mean, you're gonna have maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 Thopter cards.
Thopter Foundry is a
at least
modern.
I know there's more new options.
Yeah, Thopter Foundry is a modern card.
Yeah.
And you have to sacrifice a non-token artifact to put a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying into play. That's a little bit harder to do if you're also going to be sacrificing to Arkham.
Mm-hmm. But other artifact creatures and stuff like it, you just have a deck and there's some Thopters in it and other artifact creatures.
Yeah, no, it's quite good, and there's definitely lots of artifact token generators.
Yeah.
So you can just spit out those little 1/1 tokens, tap Arkham, and then go get any non-creature artifact card that you might want.
Okay, there's also no restriction on its casting cost or anything like that, huh? Okay.
No.
Cool.
Just has to be non-creature.
You do that to get some like really strong, 6 casting cost artifact.
Yeah.
Or even there's lots of sorry.
There's lots of broken things you can get with this guy.
But not a creature.
Not a creature. Must be non-creature. So if you want to tinker for your Colossus Asardi or your Adalock, you can't do that with Arkham.
But you could get your Storm Cauldron or
funny you say Storm Cauldron.
Cap.
Because I was actually thinking about Storm Cauldron in your Seaton's EDH deck that you're building.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I wonder if I actually want to put Storm Cauldron in. Just thought about it. Because you're going to be loaded up with druids that you can tap for mana. Like you might have somebody you can be in situations a lot of times where you don't even need to tap any lands for mana. All the druids that tap for mana, right? In your Seaton's EDH deck. Put out a Storm Cauldron, everybody else has to return lands to their deck.
And it works with the burgeoning, which I may still take out.
I don't know if it's worth putting in, but I'm just like, there aren't many cases where I'd want to run Storm Cauldron, but maybe it would be kind of interesting in this deck. I don't know.
No, I think that's not a bad idea.
Anyways, there's Arkham Dagson. Pretty cool. And we got another blue. Blue got 2 legendary creatures. Don't know why. Hydar, Rime Wind Master.
Ooh, that's a nice name.
4 colorless, 1 blue legendary creature, human wizard, 3/3. Pay 2 colorless, tap, return target permanent to its owner's hand. Play this ability only if you control 4 or more snow permanents. So it's a really cool ability. It's an annoying boomerang on a stick, but limited to snow decks, really, because you have to
some setup because he's a decent casting cost and you need to have 4 snow permanents.
Okay. You need to have 4 snow permanents.
But not bad though, and good ability.
Yeah, and he's boltable. He's gonna be a major target for removal because people aren't gonna want you bouncing their shit back to their hand every damn turn. Next one, Darian, King of Kieldor. It is high casting cost, 4 colorless, 2 white, 3/3 legendary creature. Human Lord. Whenever you're dealt damage, you may put that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens into play.
Oh, that's sweet.
4.281 on Gather, a market price of $4.33. We've come across quite a few nice soldier clan cards. This one's a real beast. I like this guy a lot. I mean, yeah, he has a high casting cost, but I mean, he's everything I would want in a Soldier Lord, to be honest.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Really makes people
It'd be
think
really good if
twice.
he was 3/4. I'd like him if he was
Yeah,
3/4.
he's boltable. But he's really going to make people think twice about sending any damage your way unless they can finish you. Like somebody attacks you for 7. Okay, great. Now I have 7/1/1 white soldier creature tokens, and maybe they're going to be directed at you next turn because you just attacked me, and I'm upset about that.
So what I want to do with this is play damage redirecting abilities so that if they deal damage to my creatures, I redirect it to myself and then generate tokens because of it.
That could be nasty.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take a lot of damage. You're kind of risking with your life, but that could be fun.
There's things to pair that with, too. You say that, and it makes me think of, I think it's Soul Warden. Of course, now you have to have both these cards out, plus a third card to redirect the damage. Soul Warden is 1 white, a 1/1
that would work
cleric.
really well. Yeah.
Whenever another creature comes into play, you gain 1 life. So redirect the damage to yourself, generate that many 1/1 creature tokens, and when they're generated, you gain that much life back.
Gain that much life. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
The other thing with,
I mean, just those two cards together.
yeah. The other thing with having this card generate this many soldier tokens is there's so many anthem effects available to soldiers.
Mhm.
If you're running a soldier deck, when these 1/1s come into play, they're probably not going to be 1/1s. I mean, some
Right.
people were mentioning a lot of the cards on Gatherer. There's Field Marshal, there's Daru War Chief, there's Veteran Armorsmith, Veteran Swordsmith, Angelic Chorus. These are all things that give pluses in power and or toughness to any soldiers that you have in play.
Wow.
This one really speaks to the creature horde lover in me. I like Darien a lot. Next one is the red legendary creature, Lovisa Cold Eyes. We came across Lovisa for the first time probably like 3-4 weeks ago during an Ice Age episode that we were doing. We read some flavor text. It was a quote by Lovisa Cold Eyes. We said, I can't believe there's not a Lovisa Cold Eyes. And we thought, hold on a second. There's like 25 years worth of Magic the Gathering cards that we haven't really explored yet. Maybe there is a Lovisa Cold Eyes. So we looked up Lovisa Cold Eyes and we found her a few weeks ago. Here she is again.
Lo and behold.
3 colorless, 2 red, 3/3 legendary creature, human lord. Gives barbarians, warriors, and berserkers +2/+2, and they have haste. Another cool lord. Just not as many great synergy cards for these creature types as compared to soldiers.
Like, I like the giving haste and the pumping. That's nice. I don't like that she's also boltable. Were all of these 3/3? I can't even remember now. What one was 3/3? No,
Arkham was 2/2. Arkham was 2/2. The others are 3/3 so far.
Okay. The other thing I'm wondering is with barbarians and berserkers, I feel like some of those will have haste already.
They might. I don't know.
You know?
I know so few. I'm familiar with so few barbarians and berserkers.
I think it's just kind of the thing that, kind of a thing that goes along with them. But
they could.
Yeah. I mean, overall, like pretty cool. I like this.
I like it too. +2/+2 is good too, but they probably give her that because there's just not that many barbarians, warriors, berserkers. There's not as much anthem effects for those creature types. At least not
I
that I'm
think warriors, there's a lot of stuff that now counts as a warrior, probably. Maybe not a lot. I shouldn't say that, but it's one of those classifications that they've tinkered with,
Okay. Next one is a black legendary creature. It is Hakan Stromgold's Scourge. When I pulled this up, I was like, oh, I've seen this too. It was reprinted recently in March of the Machine. Commander March of the Machine. So I remember when I was going through the list of reprints in March of the Machine, I came across this card for the first time. It is 1 colorless, 2 black, legendary creature Zombie Knight, 3/3. You may play Hakan Stromgold's Scourge from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else. As long as Hakan is in play, you may play Knight cards from your graveyard. When Hakan is put into a graveyard from play, you lose 2 life. It has a rating of 4.004 on Gatherer, market price of 97 cents. I started this by saying, oh, here's legendary creatures you can play as your commander. Actually, you can't play this one as a commander, even though it's a legendary creature, because it literally cannot be played from the command zone. This might be the only creature, if not the only creature, I think it was at least the first creature, that could only be played from your graveyard. Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
Interesting.
Some people mentioned that it pairs really nicely with Buried Alive, and I see that. Because with Buried Alive, it can function like a triple creature tutor if you grab Hakan and a couple knights.
My question is, what are the best knights then that you can?
That's what you would have to find out.
Like, are they all going to be small? I'm sure there's some big knights, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I can only think of like smaller knights.
We talked about a card last episode. Stromgold Crusader Zombie Knight, also in Coldsnap.
Oh, okay.
So you could go for that, but that was a pump knight. It was 2 power, 1 toughness. You could give it flying for 1 black. You could give it +1/+0 with for 2 black until end of turn. So still not big. I'm not aware of any giant knights. They might be out there. But Hakon's cool.
Martin Stromgold, Adon Oakenshield.
Small. They're all small.
A lot of them are things from other sets that I don't know. Edgar Markov.
Anything 4 power, 4 toughness or greater that you're seeing?
I can't get the stats. Which card this is? It just linked me to an article about Edgar Markov, but
oh, okay.
I think there's different versions of him as a card.
He's a vampire knight.
Regular Edgar Markov is 4/4, and he has a bunch of abilities.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Okay.
Other ones mostly, newer cards that I'm not familiar with.
Okay. So yeah, from the card pools I'm familiar with, I would say Pump Knights, but there's got to be more. There's got to be more you can do with Hakan.
Yeah, I'm sure there's. I mean, Knight is such a common thing. I'm sure there's some like decent. Oh, Battle Angels of Tyr is a 4/4 Knight, flying creature angel knight.
Okay. What's the casting cost?
2 colorless, 2 white.
Okay, that's not bad. Well, that's not bad.
There's other abilities too.
I'm just thinking because you still need to play it out. Like I say you can use Hakan as or Buried Alive as a tutor.
Oh yeah, you still have to pay
it goes to your graveyard. It's just you can consider the knights in your graveyard as an extension of your hand. You still need to cast.
The thing about that is that like with black, you have all these options for bringing creatures back from your graveyard or whatever anyways.
You do.
So
You do.
I don't really need to. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It depends on the format, but to need to cast knights from your graveyard, I don't know. There's just other stuff you can do.
Okay. Alex has strong feelings against Hakan.
No, I'm not strong. No, he's okay. I think again though, the black is the worst one in this set.
Yeah, it might be. I want to like it more than Haidar Rhyme Wind Master, but I don't know why. I don't want to like it more. I do like it more than Haidar Rhyme Wind Master. Maybe because Haidar is just such high casting cost.
Yeah. See, I mean, this guy relies on you have to have a way to get him into your graveyard to cast him.
Buried Alive. Yeah.
So very, I don't know.
It's janky.
Yeah.
A little bit janky.
But I mean, it fits with black though. Like it's definitely in the color where you have the most effects to make it work.
I think that's why I like it, because it's flavorful too.
Yeah. I like the idea of this, like, guy who has to be risen from like his crypt.
Yeah, he leads the zombie hordes only. He can't lead your living hordes. Yeah. He leads only zombie hordes.
Cool castle in the background too, for some reason. Random elevated castle.
That's the castle he's protecting.
I don't know.
Now we're getting into gold legendary creatures. I got some gold legendary creatures to talk about. The first one is Garzazol, Plague Queen. 4 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red. Legendary creature vampire. So here's another vampire for you.
Nice.
5/5. Flying and haste. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Garzazul, this turn is put into a graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on Garzazul.
Okay.
Traditional vampiric ability.
Yep.
When Garzazul deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. It's a
Damn.
little something extra.
Pretty beefy, yeah.
I like this one. It's not crazy powerful or anything, but I saw this and it immediately made me feel it has an old school feel to it, is what I would say.
Yeah.
It's
This reminds
about
me of a legend, you know,
exactly.
that they could have printed back in the day. This could have been a Baron Sengir, you know, or that, like, you know, this could have been Grandmother Sengir or one of the other, you know.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this is about at the power level of the cool legendary creatures from Legends. I can imagine this vamp across the kitchen table from an Elder Dragon, for instance.
Mhm.
Had that kind of feel to me.
I really
Not
liked
much.
it as haste because, you know, the casting cost is rough, but at least you get to use it right away. So
Mhm.
that's nice. They might not be prepared for that coming at them like the next turn. Yeah, just so tough to cast. I don't know.
So
Am I
tough
ever
to
gonna
cast.
cast that, Steve?
I'm never going to cast it, but I would still want to sometimes.
Yeah.
Not overwhelming. I mean, it's not overwhelmingly good or anything. It's just kind of cool. That's probably why it has a market price of 66 cents, because nobody actually plays it. Rating of 3.661 on Gather, if I didn't say that already. And then one more gold legendary creature from Coldsnap. Sekuar Deathkeeper. Sekar. Give it a shot, Alex. Sekuar Deathkeeper. 2 colorless, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Legendary creature Orc Shaman. It's 4/3. Whenever another non-token creature you control is put into a graveyard from play, you put a 3/1 black and red Graveborn creature token with haste into play. I like this because there's not many Orc legends. There was none that I knew about before I came across this one, I think.
Oh, it's a shaman.
Like it's a shaman. If you want an Orc commander, this guy's for you.
I really like that the tokens have haste. That's pretty cool.
They're hasty. One of, I believe, only 2 cards in all of Magic the Gathering that make Graveborn creature tokens. The other being Valduvian Dead
Huh.
from Alliances, which is 3 colorless, 1 black, summon zombies, 2/3. You can pay 2 colorless and 1 red to remove target summon card in your graveyard from the game to put a Graveborn token into play. Treat this token as a 3/1 black and red creature that can attack the turn it comes into play. Bury Graveborn token at end of turn. So
Oh.
make a whole Graveborn deck with just these 2 cards, though, because there's
Yeah,
nothing
that's
else.
exactly the same token, except it only lasts for 1 turn.
Yeah. Some people in the comments on Gather were trying to figure out what the difference between a Graveborn and a zombie is. And somebody pointed out that the Graveborn can still grow hair. So I think we figured that out. If you're a zombie and you can grow a beard, then you're a Graveborn.
All right. This card would have been awesome if it didn't if the tokens didn't get buried at the end of turn.
Yeah. But they did. So it became a card nobody played.
It kind of
20
looks like they're having
cents.
a dance party.
I don't know what. Yeah, they could be. That's a very menacing dance party.
Yeah. Like,
right.
We're dancing, but don't come over here.
You might get cut. That's the end of the legendary creatures that I wanted to highlight from Coldsnap. That might be all the legendary creatures. They were in Coldsnap. But I still got a few more rares I want to talk about. Another one is a soldier that would pair well with Darian. I actually mentioned this in the list of cards that I said would pair well with Darian, King of Keldor, or Keldoran King, whatever it was named. I have it right in front of me. Why don't I read it? Darian, King of Keldor. This is a Field Marshal. Goes well with all the soldier tokens that Darien generates for you. It's 1 colorless, 2 white, 2/2 creature, human soldier. Other soldiers get +1/+1 and first strike. So if you're the type of mage that likes soldier tokens and you're the type of mage that likes +1/+1 counters, this is for you. This is just a solid card for a creature deck. Saw a comment on Gatherer posted by, very fittingly, somebody named Field Marshal. December 11th, 2013 at 9:32 and 20 seconds in the AM, Field Marshal says, Field Marshal is my absolute favorite card to this day. I started playing MTG with that Coldsnap soldier deck, and this card brought me so many good memories of when I was first starting out. Great name, flavor, great art. Not much more you can ask for. Kind of agree with that. This is just a solid, fun kitchen table Magic the Gathering card. I have some more creatures I want to talk about. I put these cards in a category that I'm calling big baddies. There's a whole group of big baddies that aren't legendary, but they're all just giant creatures that were printed in Coldsnap. There's a lot of spells for Timmys in here, and some of them are quite good, in my opinion. The first one is ping Glacial Worm. So this is 5 colorless, 2 green creature worm. It is 9/5. It has trample. And it says, while you're searching in your library, you may play Pan Glacial Worm from your library. It has a rating of 4.198 on Gatherer, current market price of $2.46. Yes, you still have to have 7 mana available to play it out. You still have to cast it.
Yeah.
But I think it's really fun to have a creature hiding in your deck that you can tutor up anytime you crack a fetch land, anytime you activate a Thawing Glaciers, anytime you cast a spell for land ramp like Cultivate or something that tells you to search for a land, play it. This makes those cards much better late game. Like a lot of times late game, those cards don't do much for you. A fetch land isn't nearly as good for you on turn 7. A Cultivate isn't that great for you in late game. But if you make it to late game and you have one of those cards available, all of a sudden, it's not just a ramp card. It's not just a card that helps you do mana fixing. It's a card that does its normal thing and now also helps you search for a 7 casting cost, 9/5 trampler.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if there's anything else like that in the game, really. Something that you can tutor for when you search, you know?
Yeah, it's a very unique effect. I'm not familiar with anything.
The next one is the big baddie in black. Also has a unique effect. Herald of Leshrac. 6 colorless, 1 black, 2/4 creature avatar. Flying. Cumulative upkeep. Gain control of a land you don't control.
Oh, it's nasty.
Herald of Leshrac gets +1/+1 for each land you control but don't own.
Oh.
When Herald of Leshrac leaves play, each player gains control of each land he or she owns that you control.
Okay.
It's a high casting cost, but you have ritual effects in black. You could always ramp it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting reanimation target, I would say, with a very unique effect. I mean, as you get this guy out early, then you're just siphoning lands. You're just siphoning lands from your opponent. This final clause here too would also be a great stifle target.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
reanimate Leshrac early on. Take all the lands that are on the board. When you can't pay the cumulative upkeep because you have all the lands, stifle the leave play effect and you keep the lands. They don't get them back. I mean, if you get this guy out early, your opponents are in trouble.
Yeah. You do bring up a good point, though, that with the cumulative upkeep, at some point, you're going to need to take, first you're taking 1, then 2, then 3 lands. It won't be long before it won't be able to be
paid,
and then
Yeah.
it will fail. Yeah. But still, I mean, that, you're going to lock your opponent down or more or less lock them down for several turns, boost your your land count and deny them of mana, make this guy bigger.
Yep.
I think it's pretty cool.
You know, there's always there's opportunity costs. People are going to say, oh, there's always better reanimation targets. There's other big black creatures, BVCs. That's true. But this one's very unique. It's very fun.
Yeah.
I like being able to steal the land.
Yeah.
In the cumulative upkeep, that's even better in like in a commander setting.
Yeah,
You have
because I
4
can take
people.
2 lands from you, and then 3 lands from you, and then 4 lands from you. Yeah, yeah.
If you want everybody to start attacking you,
Yeah.
play Herald of Leshrac. Yeah. That's a big baddie in black. The red one's pretty cool too. It is a rhyme scale dragon.
I saw this, yeah. It's like a ball lightning-y type creature.
No, that's a different one.
Oh,
I know what you're talking about, but
yeah.
This is 5 colorless, 2 red, 5/5 flying, snow creature dragon. Pay 2 colorless, 1 snow, tap target creature, and put an ice counter on it. Creatures with ice counters on them don't untap during their controller's untap phase. Rating of 4.184 on Gatherer, market price of $3.02, $3.17 now.
It's cool that you don't have to tap it to use its ability.
Yeah. It's high casting cost, I know. It's a big dragon, it's high casting cost. But I like the flavorful play on fire breathing that they brought in here for the Ice Age block. It is mana intensive though. It takes a lot to put out. If you have enough mana to cast this though, then that means the next turn you're going to have enough mana to freeze down at least 2 different creatures if you want to. It's fun. Yeah. I like this guy.
And it can keep attacking and putting pressure on them while you're doing that too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
high
Just
to
like you
cast,
said,
but like
you don't
once
have
it
to
gets
tap.
out, it's doing some work for you.
Yeah. So this is a cool, if you're playing a big dragon deck, this is a cool big dragon to have in there, part of your team, I think. Only problem is you need to have some snow mana. That's a big one too. I don't know how many big dragon decks you're also going to be able to fit snow mana into. Well, you can fit snow mana into any deck. It's just the mana.
Yeah.
Onto the blue. In the blue, we got a big Leviathan. We got Joko Mortar. 4 colorless, 3 blue, creature Leviathan. It's 12/12 trample, which we expect in a Leviathan. Joko Mortar comes into play tapped. When Joko Mortar comes into play, sacrifice it unless you sacrifice 5 lands. Joko Mortar doesn't untap during your untap step. And whenever you play an island, you may untap Joko Mortar. It has a rating of 2.783 on Gatherer. The people don't love it. Current market price of 30 cents. I looked at this card and I was like, this is basically a Phyrexian Dreadnought. It just costs 6 mana more, and it just has 2 downsides that you need to stifle instead of 1. And it might stay tapped for quite a bit after you attack, but otherwise it's basically a Phyrexian Dreadnought. I think you agree with me, Alex.
Color specific.
And color specific, but basically Phyrexian Dreadnought. That's all I have to say about Joko Mortar, the Phyrexian Dreadnought of Coldsnap.
Yeah, I don't think anyone needs to say anything more about that.
I sometimes I like the Leviathans because I'm like, how bad can they make them?
Yeah.
Have they gotten as bad as they could possibly make one yet? Probably not. They can keep making them worse. Like every few sets, there should be another Leviathan that comes out that's just a little bit worse. Just see how far you can push it. Final big bad. No, actually, we got 2 more. The white big bad, the big baddie, is Adakar Valkyrie.
I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to mention it.
This is actually a card when I put out a post on social media saying, hey, we're going to get into Coldsnap. We never looked at it. Are there any sweet cards from Coldsnap that we should take a look at? This is one of the cards that somebody mentioned. It is 4 colorless, 2 blue, not 2 blue, 4 colorless, 2 white, 4/5, snow creature angel with flying and vigilance. Tap it. When target creature other than Adakar Valkyrie is put into a graveyard this turn, return that card to play under your control.
That's sweet. I mean,
I'm dropping stuff all over the place. Rating of 4.388 on Gatherer, market price of $1.71. I mean, that'd be fun to pick up and play. Very cool in EDH is my first thought when I see this. Very cool in EDH. It's a big casting cost. I don't know how it was on the tournament scene when it came out. Usually something that 6 tick casting cost isn't that competitive, but kitchen table wise, awesome. Multiplayer game, awesome.
Yeah.
Think of all the things you're going to be able to snag.
Yeah.
Think of it. All the possibilities.
Either snag or, you know, save
Put
one
into
of
the
your
grave.
creatures if it gets killed.
Yeah, save your creatures, snag from other people, purposely put creatures in the graveyard just to get them onto the battlefield. I very much dig it. I want to toss it into a deck someday. I like this one a lot.
Oh, well, hold on. So it has to target the creature. So it has to be, that makes it mean that it has to be put into the graveyard from play.
That's
right?
true. So forget about that last thing I said.
Yeah.
Put into the graveyard this turn. But I just like this. I just like the idea of being able to have a permanent that I can use to just like take any creature that was blown off the board by somebody else.
Yeah.
It's one thing to and if you'll have removal. It's one thing to remove creatures from the game. Well, not remove them from the game because then you couldn't do this. Put them into the graveyard and then snag it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Kill it and snag it.
You could use this ability when you Wrath of God.
Turn. How does that?
This angel for that, but
I think. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Turn. How would it work turn wise? Turn. This comes back to the issue of turns versus phases.
yeah, you could use this ability on a creature and then Wrath of God, and then that creature would come back.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
I think because like
I think so
since it
too.
says this turn, like you can use it preemptively on a creature, like put that effect like out there.
I think so.
I think
It works for me.
okay.
But I like the Valkyrie. Good. Solid creature. Cool solid creature. I'd imagine it got a lot of attention when Coldsnap was first printed. I don't know that for a fact, but next one, we're into the colorless space. Phyrexian Soul Gorger. Had trouble with that.
Yeah,
Phyrexian Soul Gorger. 3 colorless, 8/8, snow artifact creature construct. It has a cumulative upkeep. Sacrifice a creature. Has a rating of 4.030 on Gatherer. Current market price of $2.39. Wicked name. Soul Gorging is exactly what you would expect a Phyrexian construct to do. It's a bit of a nasty upkeep, especially because it's cumulative, but it's only 3 casting costs for an 8/8. The question then becomes, how do you get multiple creatures out by like turn 2, turn 3?
Mm-hmm.
My mind goes to Ornithopter again, too, Alex. You play an Ornithopter Phyrexian Soul Gorger deck. Dropping Ornithopters, dropping Soul Shields, or Shield Spheres. I don't know why I said Soul Shield. Shield Spheres, Phyrexian Soul Gorger. Probably not the best thing to do with it. Other people mentioned it's great as a finisher in a white weenie deck, so that does make sense to me. White weenie deck playing out creatures on turns 1, turns 2, turns 3. Should have some fodder for the Phyrexian Soul Gorger by turn 3 or turn 4. Swinging with an 8/8 all of a sudden, you might not care about giving up a couple 1/1 soldiers.
Right.
If you get a Phyrexian Soul Gorger coming at their face very quickly.
What about like a Nether Shadow deck? Nether Shade.
That's also great. Any creatures that come back from the graveyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nasty. And this could be put into any color deck too, because it's colorless.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. As somebody who likes giant creatures, this is a fun one. Somebody also mentioned on Gather a card named Eon Hub. Try this with Eon Hub. Eon Hub is a artifact from Fifth Dawn, which is a set we have not gotten to yet. I know 0 cards from Fifth Dawn. But now I know 1. It's Eon Hub. 5 colorless artifact. Players skip their upkeep steps.
Oh.
Play with Eon Hub or any other thing that lets you skip your upkeep. If other cards with that effect exist, they might. Eon Hub's cheap. It's a
Yeah,
dollar
I mean,
42.
this card works with almost every cumulative upkeep card, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Which I would expect to be more expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting this to be like a $70 card or anything, but only printing
Huh.
$1.42. For all I know, there's another card that was printed in another set that lets players skip their upkeep steps for 4
For
colors
4
or some
mana.
shit. Yeah. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. If you know about a strictly better Eon Hub, tell us.
Let us know. Few more, Alex. We're almost done with my review of the rares
Okay.
that interested me from Coldsnap.
There's two that I have that you haven't gotten to yet. So
Okay. Well, I only got 2 left, so we'll
Okay.
see if this is one of them. Is one of your 2 Tamanoa?
No.
I spelled this incorrectly. Tamanoa? Tamanoa. How do you pronounce it?
That's
I
tough.
don't know. It's 1 red, 1 green, 1 white. I love this card. Creature Spirit, 2/4. Whenever a non-creature source you control deals damage, you gain that much life.
Oh, okay.
Like I would love to play this as a commander if I could play this as a commander. It's not a legendary creature, so it's not a commander, but you can still play it in a commander deck, just not as your commander. I love burn. I love green creatures. I love life link. I love spirit link. This is a spirit link for all of your spells. Be so much fun. I want to pair it with red spells that blast the whole board. I want an earthquake for 3.
And it's in exactly the right color. Like if it's going to be a
I know.
3-color combo, this is the right one, I feel like. Because if I'm going to play like a red-green deck, I want to add white to it, you know? Maybe for, your STPs and whatnot and disenchants and stuff like that. So I feel like white stacks on to like red and green easily. And then, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. So I agree. I think it's pretty cool.
Burn is so good, and it makes all of your burn spells twice as good.
Yeah.
They're not dealing twice as much damage, but they're dealing X damage, and then you're gaining X life. So they're introducing a differential of 2 times that amount of life. So like burn spells that aren't that efficient any longer, incinerate. 2 mana to do 3 damage. All of a sudden, you're paying 2 mana to introduce a 6-point life differential between your opponent. Come on. Everything is so good with Tamanoa on the board. I love the
casting cost, and
only 3 casting costs.
as a 2/4, it's going to be hard to get rid of.
It's not boltable. And I love the idea of like earthquaking for 3 or something,
Oh yeah.
because it's going to deal damage to every creature, that much damage to every creature on the board. So I don't know how exactly this works. I have to figure that out actually. But it says source you control deals damage. You gain that much life.
Yeah, would you only gain 3 life from an earthquake, or would you gain life from
3
everything
for
the earthquake hit?
however many things are damaged. That I have to figure out.
Mm.
Even if it doesn't work that way, I still love it.
I sort of feel like it might not, like it just
It'd be
for
too good.
balance reasons, like it
Yeah.
might be like, yeah, you just gain 3 life from using an earthquake. But that's still, like you said, that's still okay.
I love it either way. Yeah. So I was really excited when I saw Tamanoa. It's very cheap card too. It's 93 cents. I just want to throw this in a deck. Just a burn deck. Burn and life gain with Tamanoa. Plus Saber Ants, plus Earthquake. And then I Earthquake and I damage my Saber Ants, gain life, and generate 1/1 insect token.
This ruling, I don't know. This ruling says Tamanoa's ability triggers no matter who the recipient of the damage is, another player, a creature, or even you.
Okay.
That kind of makes me think like the earthquake would give you life for everything that it hit. That's
Yeah,
kind
so
of
the question is it triggering multiple times if there's multiple creatures getting damaged?
also, if you go to 0 life, you'll die before the ability can save you.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Okay. I could deal with that.
Yeah, I can deal with that.
Last card. I think this card was a chase card from Coldsnap when it came out. Don't know how to pronounce it exactly. Ohran Viper?
That was one of the 2 I was going to mention.
Okay. Ohran Viper. Water colorless, 2 green. 1/3 snow creature snake. Whenever Viper deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature at the end of combat. Whenever Viper deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. It has a rating of 4.543 on Gatherer. I was surprised it was as high. Market price of $2.28.
I like this a lot. I feel like it's what I want Cockatrice to be.
Okay.
It has the Cockatrice effect, but it also has like a good effect for getting through. Instead of just like dealing 2 damage like a Cockatrice would, I'm getting a card. So now they have to make the tough decision of, sacrificing their creature or letting it through.
Yeah. Card draw in green is always much appreciated, so I love that about this card.
Yeah, in green, card draw is good, and you can pump it if you want. You can be attacking with this and giant growthing it and stuff. So I think this would be fun to play with.
Yeah, and I like they can go toe to toe as a blocker with anything. So, playing green stomp, you got mostly small creatures. Put the Viper out. Yeah, it's also small, but
I'm gonna slap some frog tongues on those
kill
Vipers.
anything. That'd be sweet.
Think of how terrifying would that be? Frog tongued Vipers.
I don't want to fuck with that.
By the way, that Viper is up on a stalactite, so I feel like it should be able to block creatures with flying already.
I didn't say that, but it was messing with my head the whole time. I was reading the abilities. I kept wanting to say something about flying or flying creatures because it's in the air. You can't do that.
Only in the air in a cave.
If you paint it in the air, then it blocks flying creatures at a minimum. It should at least block flying bats.
Yeah, can block flying bats.
Okay.
That's funny.
You had one card that I didn't mention that you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could probably talk about like more of these too. It's hard to draw the line where like which cards you don't want to talk about anymore. But Hibernation's End looked kind of neat to me, and also I like any card with polar bears on it.
Hibernation's End. Didn't even notice this one. Oh, okay. I noticed the art. I don't remember what this does though. 4 colorless, 1 black. No.
1 green.
4 colorless, 1 green. Enchantment. Cumulative upkeep. So pair this with your Eon Hub or your Rite of
Braids of Fire.
Braids of Fire. Eon Hub or Braids of Fire.
Is that what it was called? Braids of Fire? I think. Something braids.
I think so too. Let me scroll. I'm scrolling up. This one's an enchantment. Braid of Fire. Braid of Fire. So Hibernation's End. Whenever you pay Hibernation's End cumulative upkeep, jeez. Whenever you pay Hibernation's Ends cumulative upkeep, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of age counters on Hibernation's End and put it into play. If you do, shuffle your library. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So first turn you get a free Llanowar Elf from your library. Second turn you get a free 2-drop from your library, so on and so forth.
I'm not sure. It would be fun to play, and I would see how it would work out. It's high casting cost to begin with. That's 5. You can ramp into that because you're in green. And then I'm like, you get to find stuff and play it out, but you're not necessarily playing it for free because you have to sink that mana into the cumulative upkeep already.
You're not paying it for free. You're paying its mana cost, but you're tutoring for it and drawing an extra card that turn.
That's true. Okay, so it's getting you an extra card, and you get to search through your deck and find whatever the best card for you at the moment
for that mana cost.
Mana cost is.
Yeah.
This would be interesting. It would be a fun card to play.
Yeah, and like I feel like there's a lot of potential for ways to build the deck, for like which creatures you pick.
Yeah.
To do this with. You'll have an assortment of creatures of different casting costs, that maybe have enter the battlefield effects or like
Okay.
Okay.
I dig it. I think that's the end of our Coldsnap review. If you don't have anything else you want to talk about, we went through over the course of 3 episodes, the commons that caught our eye, the uncommons that interested us, and now the rares. I think overall it's a pretty solid set. I mean, I think there's a lot of fun opportunities here for kitchen table magic.
Yeah, I liked it overall.
A lot of fun creatures. I'm a creature guy. A lot of big baddies. I like big baddies.
The cards weren't boring. They, did unique and interesting things and looked like there were ways to, build around them and combo with them and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of unique stuff. I don't know how unique some of the cards seem now, but to somebody who's really only seen the old frame card pool, definitely a lot of unique abilities, unique spells. With that said, we're going to move on to segment 2 of the Old Mage MTG podcast today. Segment 2 is the Old Mage Commander Corner. Alex and I have a few more cards to add to our decks today. These are the second commander decks we are building so far. Like our first decks, they are old frame only. My commander is a Tog, so I'm building an Atog themed deck, 5-color deck. Alex's commander is Seaton, Croson Protector, so he's building a Druid themed old frame deck. So far in my Atog deck, which I've named a deck, I have 11 creatures. They are the different Togs that are available to me, plus a clone, plus Mistform Ultimus, which is every creature type, including Atog. I've been putting in some 5-color good stuff spells. In my instance, I have Berserk, I have removal, like Disenchant, Naturalize, Switch to Plowshares, direct damage, like Lightning Bolt. I have Fling, because I can pump up my Togs by feeding them stuff and fling them at somebody's face. I have a couple artifacts for them to eat. I have to put in more artifacts for them to eat. So far, I just have Felwar Stone and Soul Ring. I have some enchantments for some of my Atogs to eat. Some of the Togs can eat enchantments, like Thaumatog, like Phantatog, like a Togatog. The enchantments I went with so far are Seal of Cleansing, because that gives me some more enchantment removal or artifact removal. Rancor, because this comes back to my hand. I can feed it to my Oratog, goes to my graveyard, tap a forest, play it again, feed it to my Oratog, and just loop that for however many forests I have. Cover of Darkness, this is one I'm very proud of. As it comes into play, choose a creature type. All creatures of that type have fear. I'm choosing what, Alex?
Atogs.
Atogs. Who else is going to have Atogs on the board? Nobody. So only my creatures are going to have fear. And then I put in Animate Dead because it's just 5-color good stuff. I feel like it's fun, and Commander, somebody's going to have some cool things that I want to animate. I have dual lands, all the dual lands in here. I don't own all the dual lands yet. I only own 3. I'm going to proxy them for now. I might actually remove some of them and just put in some tap lands or something. Got to decide. But what am I adding today? Well, with a deck, I'm going to keep the mana curve low. I'm going to be playing out a lot of stuff. I'm going to be trying to play things on every turn at 2 casting costs or 3 casting cost creatures, low casting cost artifacts or enchantments. I'm going to be emptying my hand, and then I'm going to be sacrificing stuff. So I'm going to have some spells that refill my hand, some spells that bring things back to my hand from the graveyard. I'm going to add a couple things that do that today. I'm going to add Wheel of Fortune. Play out on my cards. Sacrifice things. Want to rebuild my board. I'm going to play out my Wheel of Fortune. This is a fun card to play, and I have one, so I'm going to play it. I feel like this fits into 5-color good stuff. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it works out poorly for you, but that's what happens. Spin the wheel, see what happens.
You get to play that card when you want it, and that means you're going to play it when it's helpful to you.
I play it at the dumbest possible time I could play it. That's how I play my wheels. I play it when I have like a great 7-card hand, and I'm like, man, these are bangers. One of them is a wheel, I play the wheel. When I have a great 7-card hand and my opponent has an empty hand, I play my wheel. I'm also putting Hannah, Ship's Navigator, in this deck. She's going to navigate my ship. Hannah, Ship's Navigator, is not an Atog, but I feel like she has a place in this deck. This is a new frame printing of Hannah. I'm going with the old frame. Original from Invasion.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
She's 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1/2 creature legend. Pay 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, tap to return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So, you know, this could cost me a lot of mana. I got to pay the mana to bring it back to my hand. I got to pay the mana to then play it from my hand to my graveyard. But I want to, you know, pick things that I want to put some cards in here that I can use to get things back from my graveyard after I've sacrificed them to a Tog. That's just a way a Tog's going to work. A deck's going to work. She's fighting a crab robot.
Hate crab robots.
She's a maker, not a destroyer. She never thought she'd have to spend her life fighting like this. I feel for you, Hannah. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations in life that we didn't expect to be in. You just got to fight your way through the crab people. It'll be better on the other side. What are your additions today, Alex, to Seaton? Seaton's power.
So I can never decide what to add for any specific episode at the end here. I think I need to start trying to do a few different categories of like, I still have some little druids to add, some more cool big creatures to add, and some
Little
spells.
druid.
So I'll try to do like one of each.
Little druid category, cool
yeah.
big creature category.
So for a druid, how about Quirion Sentinel?
Quirion Sentinel.
Yeah.
I don't know this one. Is this the one that makes all of your creatures tap for mana? No.
No, it gives you a mana when you cast it.
Okay. Quirion Sentinel, 1 colorless, 1 green, 2/1 creature elf, not a druid. So we got an elf here. Oh, okay.
It's a druid now.
Gather. Is it an elf druid or is it just a druid?
It's an elf druid. I'll double check.
It's from Invasion. When Quirion Sentinel comes into play, add 1 mana of any
druid.
color to your mana pool.
Yeah. And so I don't need the mana fixing, but it's a 2/1 for 2, and it gives me a mana. And with my commander down, it becomes a free card to play, basically, because I can tap it for a mana when I put it down.
Yep.
So another little druid for the whole theme of the deck that can produce some more mana for me. Okay. Slightly bigger or more effective creature. Let's do Nut Collector.
Nut Collector. Alex and I were talking about Nut Collectors off the pod last week. Nut Collectors are cheap now. They were $50 like 2 years ago, plummeted in price. Now's the time to establish your Nut Collector positions. Everybody, get your Nut Collectors. I recently bought some for, I think, like $3. $2.49 from Odyssey. Nut Collector is a druid. 5 colorless, 1 green. That's a high casting cost, but in a druid clan deck with Seaton at the helm, that ain't shit. You can do that in your, you can pay 6 mana in your sleep.
Yeah.
It's 1/1. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a 1/1 green squirrel creature token into play. Threshold, all squirrels get +2/+2.
There's probably gonna be some more squirrel cards making their way in here.
Oh, okay. You're going with squirrel slash druids.
There's a couple of squirrel druid type cards.
That's true.
I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Hermit druid is one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
Okay, another card. Maybe I won't need these, but I was thinking about some things that continue with the tapping and untapping effect, like Instill Energy.
Okay.
Also there's Nature's Chosen, so I don't know if I'll need one or both, but let's put Instill Energy in today.
Instill Energy. An Alpha Original?
No.
Well, I'm saying the card.
Unlimited.
I'm saying the cards from Alpha. Been around since the days of Alpha. Printed in Original Edition Alpha. It's an OG card. Alex does not have the Alpha one because he has 0 Alpha cards.
Correct.
I also have 0 Alpha cards. One green, enchant creature. You may untap target creature both during your untap phase and 1 additional time during your turn. Target creature may also attack the turn it comes into play. Okay. That's God's hand.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I'm gonna have a lot of tapping and untapping going on. Creatures that are more or less gonna have vigilance or and or haste in this deck. So just being able to use things as blockers, tap them for mana multiple times. I think it should be good. We'll see. I don't know if I'll end up really needing the aura type additions of this, like Instill Energy and Nature's Chosen, but
Yeah.
I'll put it in for now, maybe take it out later.
Okay. Okay. I'm getting a look at this Druid tribal deck, Druid clan deck. You're building it up. I'm seeing the potential for mana generation here. I don't know if you're thinking about this, and I don't know what cards I would put in yet, but you should put in a couple just mana sinks. Cards that generate tokens when you sink mana into it or something.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, don't know which one I'd pick yet. Not the Hive. I know it wouldn't be the Hive, but something with Hive-like abilities, just to feed.
Yeah, I
you're
think
gonna have excess mana.
I think I have a couple of things here like that where I can spend some of that mana. I also have some bigger creatures that I can use the mana for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with our second commander decks. Seaton's Power 2024, a deck 2024. That brings us to the end of episode 80 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. We're still going strong. We're 80 episodes in. Who'd have thunk it? How many more do we got in us, Alex?
12.
That's it? We're not even going to make it to 100? I'll hunt you down. I'll come to your house. I'll tie you to the chair. I'll make you continue to podcast.
Okay.
You were supposed to
I'll
say
keep going.
you were supposed to say we got another 9 years at least in us. Because I
Yeah.
said we have to do this for at least 10 years. When you started this, it became a 10-year commitment from the beginning. I don't have anything else to say about Magic the Gathering. I guess I'll say if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening all the way to the end. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Give us a like, leave a comment. If you like other apps, we now got video on Spotify. So please, subscribe to us on Spotify. We don't have that many Spotify subs. I don't talk about Spotify much, but I'm going to start pumping the Spotify, especially because now we got the video up there. I wasn't really pumping wasn't talking about the podcast apps much because I think this is really a video-based show. I mean, we're showing cards all the time. We're talking about stuff that I'm showing on the screen. Not as great in audio format only, but now you got video on Spotify. So join us on Spotify if you haven't already. If you do that, also give us a 5-star rating. Nothing below 5 stars. If you give us a 4-star rating, Alex is going to fall into a deep depression and he's going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to be like, Alex, but you said 10 years. We got to keep going. Forget about that person who gave us a 4-star rating. Doesn't matter. Maybe their finger slipped. Who knows? Don't do it, people. 5-star only. You have anything you want to say to the viewers before we head out, Alex?
I think you got it all.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week.
I ain't gonna do this anymore. That's all for me. Goodbye.